Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. Today, she's back, the ace, Tere Walsh. Welcome back, Tere.
Thank you, Rick. Hi, everyone. It's great to be back.
Tere picked the topic today, and it's an interesting one. You boomers out there, start scratching your head because what we're going to talk about, we need you to recall something. Tere, go ahead and tell what the topic is today.
Today, the topic is who did you have a crush on when you were growing up? And there were three categories. Who did you have a crush on TV? Who did you have a crush on in the movies? And what musician or band did you have a crush on as you were growing up? Whose posters were hanging on your wall? That's it. We got a lot of interesting answers, which I think you will enjoy.
Now, how did you get the feedback with this question? Where did you send the messages out to?
Well, I asked our podcast meeting of other podcasters. I put it out on my Facebook page where I have over 100 of my classmates. They were the same age as me, definite baby boomers. And I put it on the James Walsh official Gypsy fan club page to get some answers there.
Well, I'm curious to hear the results. What I want you to do, if you don't mind, is just read off the survey, and then maybe we can kind of riff on some of the choices that the people made.
All right. So the first question I asked was, who did you have a crush on when you were growing up on TV? And when I say these, I'm just going to preface it with some people were on TV and they were also in the movies. And they were also musicians. So some of them you may hear more than once. All right, let's go. Goldie Hawn, Farrah Fawcett, the Monkees, Barbara Feldon, Johnny Crawford, Ricky Nelson, Davy Jones, David Cassidy, Sherry Lewis, Tina Louise, Michael Landon, John Travolta, Billy Gray. Someone put down Fury, and I didn't know if it was the horse or Jim or Joey that were on it, which were Peter Graves and Bobby Diamond. So take your pick there. Barbara Eden, who of course we just did a show on I Dream of Jeannie. Elizabeth Montgomery, the three Petticoat Junction Girls, Annette Funicello, Donna Reed, Maureen McCormick, Parnell Roberts, who was Adam in Bonanza, and also Trapper John in later years on Trapper John. Tommy Rettig, Kurt Russell, Tony Dow, and Connie Hines. Do you know who Connie Hines was, Rick?
Yeah, Mr. Ed. She was Wilbur's wife.
She was. There you go. So it looks like to me the most votes that we got was Johnny Crawford.
Well, let's talk about Johnny Crawford. We just featured him along with John Hayes as a boomer guest on The Rifleman. And Johnny Crawford is an interesting character because as a young boy, he was also a pop idol along with being Lucas McCain's son, Mark, on The Rifleman. He had a pop hit song called Cindy's Birthday. And let's play a little clip of that right now.
No time for the movie show, TV or the radio. Gotta write a symphony and a book of poetry. Tie them with a ribbon made of gold and give them to Cindy. Today is Cindy's birthday. No time for geometry, arithmetic, or history. Gotta write a song from my heart and pick the greatest work of art. Tie them with a ribbon made of gold and give them to Cindy. Today is Cindy's birthday.
was Johnny Crawford, pop idol, original Mouseketeer, Mark McCain on The Rifleman, and later he also acted and he also was a musician. I wanted to bring back and talk about somebody else that you mentioned on there. This was TV. You said David Cassidy.
Yes.
My sister, Renee, if you're watching, Renee, you remember this. You had such a crush on him, posters on the wall, which I made fun of him in front of you. And I wasn't very nice as a big brother, but you really liked him. And you had the albums. I think it was on Bell was the label of the album. And you used to play that on the little phonograph. And I'm sorry I teased you so mercilessly.
That's very nice to apologize to Renee. Very sincere apology.
Well, I should have never called him David Kiss My Assity. That wasn't very nice to me. But anyway, Big Brother, what do you do? What do you do? And who was your favorite in that list?
My favorite was Johnny Crawford, but I like Tony Dow too. I'm a Leave It to Beaver fan, and Wally was cute.
Tony Dow, he was the perfect guy to play Wally Cleaver.
He was.
All the little girls liked him. The guys wanted to be his buddy. He was just the all-American boy. And it's funny you mentioned Tony Dow because my wife Sharon and I have been watching one of the channels. They have Love Boat reruns. Remember that show from the 70s, early 80s?
I do.
And the prints are really pristine. But I remember when that was on, I thought, what a square show. You know, you got all these has-beens on there and the up-and-coming actors and all that. Well, Tony Dow was on an episode. And if you ever watch Love Boat, they have all these stories where these people meet up and they fall in love in like 3-4 days. Well,
Yeah.
Tony Dow was this shy guy and he approached this beautiful woman and she kind of shot him down and he was just kind of, gee whiz, shucks, okay, trying to get his courage up. And he ended up kind of being really nice to her when she's having some troubles. And the whole time it was like watching Wally Cleaver, just being a nice guy.
Do you know who the girl was?
I don't. But what they would do is they would have people come on like Sid Caesar, Ethel Merman, Red Button, people from another era would come on there. We had Bert Convy come on. He was a game show host. But it was fun to see them in other roles. But I got to admit that as a 68-year-old baby boomer, it was kind of fun watching these reruns because the print, like I said, is really good. And it was fun to see actors from another era that were portraying other roles.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say one thing.
Sure.
Rick is a 68-year-old, but he's only been one for one day because it was his birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Rick.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, as of the taping, April 2nd. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
I don't feel any different. I still feel like a 14-year-old. Just ask my wife. I act like one.
Yeah.
Well, some of these other names that you mentioned, who got the highest votes, would you say?
Johnny Crawford got it, and then Farrah Fawcett, Ricky Nelson, Davy Jones, they all tied.
Now, Ricky Nelson, he was a teen idol, and he was on a show called Ozzie and Harriet.
Yes.
With his mom and dad, Ozzie and Harriet, and his brother David. And that was a pretty good show. And usually at the end, that was in the 50s, early 60s, at the end, Ricky Nelson would be singing a song.
He would.
And people would just tune in just to hear that song at the end. And he was quite the heartthrob.
Yes, he was.
And you said Davy Jones?
Davy Jones. You know what? Davy Jones got 2 votes, and the Monkees also got 2 votes. So they were kind of in a tie for second place.
Cool.
And I think I told you before, but Mr. James Walsh used to live next door to Mickey Dolenz out in Laurel Canyon when Gypsy was out there.
Your rock star husband living between Mickey Dolenz and Frank Zappa. And hanging out in limousines with Jimi Hendrix. What a rock and roll lifestyle your husband.
And Mama Cass. Don't forget Mama Cass.
Can't forget that. So these people that they picked in your poll, who do you think would be number one overall? I know some were ties, but in your mind, who do you think the number one TV crush? And give a guy and then a gal.
Okay, I would have to say, I'd have to give a couple guys. I would say Johnny Crawford because he just was so beautiful. And I would say Tony Dow because he was just America's all-American boy. He played the sports and he always did the right thing as opposed to his two friends, Lumpy and Eddie.
That's a great show. I still watch it on MeTV. All you Boomer Buddy regulars, you probably have seen the episode that I did on Leave It to Beaver last year. It's really a good episode. I'm really pleased with what was covered in that, and it got quite a few views. So you out there liked Leave It to Beaver, and that's pretty cool. June and Ward, they were pretty cool. They were the ultimate parents that everybody wanted to have.
Yeah.
And enough said on Leave It to Beaver. Who was the female?
Male, I would say Farrah Fawcett. She came in at the end of the baby boomers, so I would definitely say her. I would say, and maybe I just didn't survey the right people, I would say Annette Funicello. Didn't every guy love Annette Funicello on, if not on the Musketeers, on the beach movies?
Yes, she absolutely was a crush when she was on the Mickey Mouse Club. She was one of the favorites on there, and that, you know, that was 50s. And then she kind of reinvented herself because a lot of child stars didn't go any further, but she made it big in the Beach Blanket Bingo movies, and she grew into quite a beautiful young lady, and she did have a lot of fans out there.
Yeah, so I would say those two.
So what's the next category that you want to cover?
The next category is crushes on someone in the movies.
Oh.
I'm going to preface this by saying when we were young baby boomers, there was no Netflix. There was Saturday night at the movies. So if we didn't go to the theater or a Saturday matinee, that was the only movies you really saw. And you'll be able to tell if I'm talking about a male giving the answer or a female. I'm sure you'll be able to tell. So we will jump into the movies and we'll start with Raquel Welch, The Monkees, Natalie Wood, Troy Donahue, Elvis, Tony Curtis, James Coburn. I believe he was also on TV several times. Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Kim Novak, Robert Redford, Lana Turner, Peter Tork, John Travolta, Debbie Reynolds, Anne Margaret, Jane Asher, Annette Funicello, Steve McQueen, Gene Pitney, Johnny Sheffield, that one I had to look up, Marilyn Monroe.
Okay. It's interesting that Peter Tork's in there.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And the Monkees were in there also. What do you want to know?
Who got the most votes in that category, would you say?
Raquel Welch.
Yeah, I get that one. Yeah.
For guys, Steve McQueen.
Yeah, Steve McQueen, he was kind of like the tough guy, anti-hero, cool guy.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's quite an allure to a sector of the people out there.
The car chases, and yeah, he was the cool guy. I'm glad to see Annette Funicello made this one because she did quite a few beach movies.
Yes, and I'm going to play right now for you and the audience out there, Annette Funicello singing a song in one of those movies with the Beach Boys in the background, a song called Monkey's Uncle. Here we go.
She loves a monkey's uncle, yeah, yeah. She loves a monkey's uncle, whoa, whoa. She loves a monkey's uncle.
And the monkey's uncle's ate for me. care what the whole world thinks.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
Call us a couple of missing links.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
Love all his monkey shines. Every day is Valentine's. I love the Monkees, Uncle, and the Monkees, Uncle's ate for me.
Ate for me. She loves the Monkees, Uncle, yeah, yeah. She loves the Monkees, Uncle, whoa, whoa. She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
And the Monkees, Uncle's ate for me. We kiss and my heart jumps like a clown.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
Feels like the circus just came to town.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
I'd live in a jungle gym in order to be with him. I love the Monkees, Uncle, and I wish I were the Monkees' aunt.
Monkees and
On the day he marries me, what a nutty family tree.
a bride, a groom, a chimpanzee.
Let them say he's the booby prize.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
He's the guy I idolize.
She loves the Monkees, Uncle.
Love all his monkey shines. Every day is Valentine's. I love the Monkees, Uncle, and the Monkees, Uncle's ate for me.
Ate for me.
I love the Monkees, Uncle, yeah, yeah. I love the Monkees, Uncle, whoa, whoa. I love the Monkees, Uncle, and I'm mad about his chimpanzee.
Terry, in this category, were there any real surprises to you?
Johnny Sheffield was kind of a surprise. And do you know who that was?
No, I was going to say, not offhand. I've heard the name, but I can't place who that is.
Well, I do a call, but nobody wants to hear that. Johnny Sheffield was Boy in the Tarzan movies.
That's where I've heard that name.
And you can do a Tarzan call if you want. Another one that I was rather surprised about, thinking of what was going on at the time, was Jane Fonda. I was kind of surprised by that.
Jane Fonda was in movies back then, like Barbarella, where it was kind of a sexy role. Yeah, Jane Fonda, she made a lot of interesting movies and kind of seen in the light of Raquel Welch a little bit back then.
Who else do you want to talk about on that list?
Natalie Wood, what an interesting choice that is. She was a young actress, had some child roles, and grew into quite a beauty. Her career had many good parts, and she had kind of a tragic ending to her life, if people know about that.
Yeah, she did.
She was married to Robert Wagner. She drowned. They were out on their yacht and had some kind of an accident. Some people might think otherwise, but yeah, tragic ending to her life. But boy, did she light up the screen when she was on there.
She did. She even Miracle on 34th Street, when she was just a little child, she did light up that screen.
And Rebel Without a Cause.
Yes, and West Side Story, the first one, not the remake. So
us boomers, we did it once, and we don't want other generations to remake them. They're not the same.
That's right.
You mentioned Elvis. Obviously, what a great music career he had. And then he ventured into the movies. His first couple were critically acclaimed, if I remember, but then he got out of the army and he just started making these cheesy movies, but with the quick soundtracks and everything. But looking back, I still kind of like some of the songs on there. They're just quick little songs that Elvis put his imprint on. And oh well, if you don't like it, that's okay too. But I kind of enjoy looking back at Elvis in those movies. Elvis had a movie career. Not everybody remembers that, but he did have a lot of fans that enjoyed his movies, to be fair.
Yes.
And let me just jump in here, Terry. If you have anybody that you think should be on this list that isn't, please comment right now. If you're watching on YouTube, drop it in there. We'd love to hear from you and tell us who and why you made that choice. We'd love to hear from you. And Terry and I will get back to your comment. And also go ahead, share, like, and subscribe. Hit that like button, please. It really helps with the algorithms, and share this video with your friends. The more you do that, the more viewers we get, and we can get more ideas from you out there as well. If you comment, we just love hearing from you.
Yes, we would definitely love to hear from you, and we can read those at another time. Are you ready to go on to the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready to hear the
Or do
next
you want to hear some more? Well, before we go on, let's hear who your movie crush was. Yes.
My movie crush, I don't know which brain I was thinking with, but it's Raquel Welch. Yeah, when she had the fur outfit from what, a million BC, whatever the name of that movie was. I
Yeah,
just a young guy. I thought she was one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. That would be my crush for the movie.
definitely. All right, so now we shall take a step into the musicians. And I kind of did musicians, whoever anybody said to me. Before we start this one, Sandy Isaacs, I'd certainly like to thank you for answering on my page and the James Walsh page and using 3 different answers on each one. I guess that's
Sandy,
one way to do it.
Sandy, variety is the spice of life. Thanks
Yes, there you go. Okay, musicians, we will start out with the Monkees, Joan Baez, the Beatles, Tina Turner, Petula Clark, Robbie Robertson, I had to look that one up, Paul McCartney, Neil Diamond, Edie Gourmet, Rod Stewart, Debbie Harry, John Denver, Elvis, Donny Osmond, David Cassidy again, Vicki Peterson of the Bangles, Fats Domino, Karen Carpenter, Barry Cowsill, Robert Lamb, Enrico Rosenbaum, George Harrison, Davy Jones, and then we have Mike, who wanted to give the male perspective, Dusty Springfield, and Sandy Shaw. And Sandy Shaw, if you don't know, sang Always Something There to Remind Me. And she was the first English person to win on Eurovision. And she was known to sing barefoot. Not the song, no shoes.
Kind of like Linda Ronstadt. She should be on the list too.
She should be. And for our good podcast buddy, Trevor, who was not a baby boomer. In fact, he's very young, but he said Nora Jones. So there you go, Trevor.
Trevor, that's a good choice. Trevor J. Brown of the Trevor J. Brown Show. Thanks for your input. I got to say that Joan Baez was known to sing barefooted as well, and that's a good choice. She had a beautiful voice, beautiful presence.
Yes. I'm going to name 2 others that weren't put in a category. Mark Spitz, who was in the Olympics for USA as an Olympic swimmer. I believe he held the record for the most medals till Michael Phelps.
And the best mustache.
And the best mustache, yeah. Have to say. And then the other one was Chelsea by Jim R. And nobody knows Chelsea, but I do, because my girlfriend and I used to meet people and have fake names. There was no one named Chelsea at that time.
Terry is Chelsea.
I was Chelsea, and Jim was a friend of mine, and he remembered that when we met several years later. And I always get a birthday greeting. Happy birthday, Chelsea. There you go.
Now, you mentioned Robbie Robertson, and you had to look him up. He's the lead guitarist for the band.
Yes.
That's a good one to have on the list. You also mentioned somebody named Paul McCartney.
Yes, Paul
Yeah.
McCartney.
Wasn't he in a band before Wings? He was in some kind of big band before
Yeah, the Bugs or um,
the
the
Beatles.
Beatles.
Oh, we're messing
Yes,
around. But yeah, Paul McCartney has a lot of fans out there. He was the cute Beatle and he had all the charm, right?
he did. He was my favorite Beatle, gotta say.
Yeah.
And which one did you pick, Rick?
Well, I picked Vicky Peterson of the Bangles. She's around my age. And I remember when the Bangles came out, they could really rock. They were part of what they called the Paisley Underground out in the LA area, where they grew up listening to the Beatles. They listened to Simon and Garfunkel and that music, and they just loved it. And they honed their craft. And then obviously, as they got bigger and bigger, they got these producers that did a lot of slick production. But I'll never forget the raw days of the Bangles and just how much energy they had. And Vicky was my favorite. I should say a lot of the guys that watched the Bangles liked Susanna Hoffs or Mickey Steele, and then Vicky's sister Debbie. Vicky was the one I really enjoyed because I also liked her guitar playing. But interesting fact, she is married to John Cowsill, who is part of the Cowsills. He was the drummer,
Oh,
and
wow.
they're married and they have a new album out. And I just love those two together. Yeah, Barry Cowsill's on your list. He
Barry
was the father.
Cowsill is.
He passed away in the hurricane down in New Orleans,
Oh, wow.
and they lost Barry there. He was a heartthrob too. Remember Tiger Beat? You probably bought Tiger Beat. I never did, but he or John, they're always on the cover because the girls just loved those guys. So yeah, Vicky Peterson, that's my choice.
Yes. And while we're talking about the Cowsills, the Partridge Family was loosely based on the Cowsills, a family that all sang together and their mother sang with them. The Cowsills' mother was right there on stage with them.
She has musical talent. She's a great singer. And the brothers, they wanted to be the next Beatles, that was their mindset and they could play that. But having your mom in there gives you a whole different image in there. And then, of course, their younger sister, Susan, came on board and she was charming and talented. That family has so much musical talent and they got it from their mom. And if you ever want to see the story of their family, their dad was kind of a taskmaster. And they have a documentary that's out there and you can find it. I think it was on Amazon at one time. So that's the Cowsills. And yes, they were considered to be the Partridge Family, but they kind of rejected the mom for the acting. They got Shirley Jones, and Cowsills basically said, hey, if mom can't be in it, we don't want to do it. So it went another direction. The one that we saw on TV with Shirley Jones and David Cassidy, Susan Day, Danny Bonaducci, and the two others I don't remember.
Brian and Tracy, but I don't remember their last
Yeah, I
names.
kind of went on a tangent there, but it's kind of fun to talk about that.
Anybody else you would like to see on this?
Well, you mentioned Jane Asher.
Back on movies.
Jane Asher was Paul McCartney's girlfriend, and she was the sister of Peter Asher. Heard of Peter and Gordon? And Paul actually lived in the Asher house for a while, hung out with Peter, and obviously Jane was in there too. Paul and Jane had a relationship until they didn't have one. But that's kind of a neat little side story. So we have Paul McCartney on the list and his girlfriend, Jane Asher.
I'm kind of interested that there were no real groups. There were so many duos, and then, like you said, Peter and Gordon. And I'm surprised the Young Rascals, the Turtles, Lovin' Spoonful, groups like that. None of them were on here. But people really did good about just using a crush, like someone in the group. There weren't
Right.
too many full groups here.
Now, you mentioned Donny Osmond. They had a group. I actually won a few bets because the Osmonds had a hit song called One Bad Apple. When I got a little bit older and consumed a few alcoholic beverages, I used to say, hey, who did One Bad Apple? And I would say that 9 out of 10 would say the Jackson 5. And then I'd say, no, it's the Osmonds.
I might have said the Jackson 5, who did not make this list.
And you mentioned John Denver.
Yes, I did. And John Denver got a lot of votes.
And he had a local tie. We're out of the Twin Cities here, all you Boomer Buddy viewers and listeners up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And he lived in a suburb called Edina for a little bit. And there's a reason why he lived here. His gal, Annie, was from here. And remember the song, Annie's Song?
I love that song. That might be my favorite song he did.
Well, he wrote that for her. John Denver, that's a good choice.
Yes, and he used to be on a show, if anybody remembers this, you boomers, that was on right before TV went off for the night after the news on UCCO called This Must Be the Place, hosted by Bill Carlson. That's what you watched. I mean, we didn't have cable or anything, and John Denver was on there several times. I saw him when I was babysitting and had to stay awake.
Yeah, Bill Carlson's show was really good, and I used to have to babysit too, and I would watch that. And he had really good guests on there.
He did.
And I'm sure all over the country, because obviously no cable or anything, I'm sure they had local shows like that. But Bill Carlson was kind of a cool guy. He kind of had that Robert Wagner look. I always thought, hey, he kind of looks like Robert Wagner. But he would get the best guests on there locally, and that was impressive.
Yeah. Peter, Paul, and Mary weren't on there. Kind of surprised about that.
On the list?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's so many more.
Yes.
Obviously, you did a survey on your Facebook page. You did it informally with the podcast group, and then on your husband's band page, the Gypsy page. It's kind of a certain kind of audience. Let's do it here on My Boomer Buddies podcast. Go ahead and comment. Tell us who your crushes were in TV, music, and movies. We'll put them together and we'll do another episode on your choices. So share, like, subscribe, and like, please. There's one more on this list, this last category, that I think had one of the best voices ever. Her name's Karen Carpenter. Karen Carpenter had a beautiful voice. She had that alto voice, and it was so rich and pure. And I just love the way she sings. But guess what? She is also one of the best drummers you'll ever see. Crush just on her music ability alone, right there.
You don't see very many drummers that are also singers.
But I would put her way up here of the choices.
Yes, it's tragic that she died so early. You wonder where she would have gone had she lived past 32.
Well, there's some good choices on here. Terry, this is a fun topic today.
It really was.
We covered some people that I haven't thought of in ages.
We did. Really a fun survey to get my answers and see what everybody thought and how many different ones there were and how many weren't mentioned at all.
I can't wait to find out what your next topic is going to be for a show idea. Thanks again, Ace Boomer Buddy, for coming on. For Tere Walsh, I'm Rick Reed, My Boomer Buddies podcast. Thank you for watching. Until next time, we'll see you
around the block.